That's a question I ask myself when I meet people.
Of course.
Do I like how I feel when I'm around you? And if I don't like how I feel, my life's too short to spend it with people that I wouldn't enjoy. In other words, what are your standards? There's so many things in life that matter to me so much more than did I make money?
Kris Krohn, I'd like to play a game with you today, and it's a little bit of a dicey game. Are you in or are you in?
Dude, dicey games? That's like my thing. How'd you know?
Yeah, I don't know how this is gonna go. This is gonna be pretty crazy. But the question of today is, Kris, who do you look up to? Who do you go to for inspiration? Rule, you can't say yourself.
Oh, come on. Why would I say that I look up to myself?
You sent me that video of Matthew McConaughey where he's like, he's always gunning to be as good as the person he is in 10 years.
Yes.
Like,
okay. So we're not gonna steal that game. Anything from him.
So I'm just curious. Who do you look up to? Where do you find inspiration?
So it's interesting. I actually like to look up to people that I like and people that I don't like.
You're saying both?
I actually look at both.
Huh.
I think there's powerful knowledge in knowing why you like someone, but I think it's sometimes far more powerful to figure out why you don't resonate with other people. Like there's some self-identifying lessons there that are really, really useful. Like, for example, and I'm not just saying this, I really mean it, but I look up to God. Like I always say, God is my master mentor. And part of that is just a humbling reminder that I've been so incredibly blessed. I've won so much by where I'm at in life. And I have to give credit where credit really is due, because truly the majority of my business decisions are not logical. Logic is a reflection of what we've learned up until this point. And if all of our decisions that we make are based on logic, then we can only get more of what we've gotten. But that's not what I'm getting. I am getting continued increase, like at an exponential rate. And that's because after I've logically weighed things out, I go to my intuition. Now, intuition's kind of a funny word. I want to dive in on this because this leads for me back to God. You see, there are some people that say intuition, there are some people that say gut. Gut reflects your past. Intuition reflects your future. When people are like, oh, I don't know, my gut doesn't like what I'm hearing right now. I'm like, got it, you've been burned. You've been hurt. You're trying to reflect on the boo-boos, the mistakes, the things that didn't go well. And for that, we have a gut. It's important. I want to check my logic. I want to check my gut. But my intuition is different. If we were in a religious context, you might call that Holy Ghost. You might call it Holy Spirit. You might call that, Napoleon Hill talks about accessing the windows of heaven, the divine, higher self. There's all these words for, that they use in spirituality and religiosity for this idea that we are connected to something far greater than who we are. And it's more than just our highest and best selves at our ultimate potential. I believe that God streams wisdom and knowledge to us that is beyond our years or beyond our experience. That's what intuition is for me. So what that means is, at a very technical level, like probably hundreds of times during the day, I'm logically processing, but when the decision matters, I will reflect on my gut and be like, do I have any warning signs from my past? And then after that, I go to my intuition to access future wisdom. And if I were teaching someone how to do that, because for me, it just happens in a blink. But if I were teaching someone, I'd say, close your eyes, take a deep breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, get yourself grounded, eliminate logic in that process, let go of your gut, let go of your feelings, let go of good and bad, positive and negative, and just be present. Almost like there's a blank slate in front of you. And when you get in a really grounded space, you can then ask a question and receive information. So I'll ask, should I send that email? Should I make that offer? Should I invite this person to the event? Do I want to do business with this person? And when you ask it as a yes or no, there is a intuitive leaning to the left or to the right. And I've made a decision years ago that I will trust whatever that is, and that is my final say. Well, for me, that's God. So master mentor, God is first and foremost who I look up to, because he represents everything. And I believe that he knows paths that I can't comprehend.
Well, in true form, Kris, this is absolutely not the direction I expected this conversation to go.
Maybe we should coordinate a game plan before we shoot a podcast.
What you bring is way more interesting than what I had in mind. We'll still get to some of the things I've got, but wow.
Okay, I'll give you another one now. Okay, now let's get a little bit earthly.
Okay.
Years ago, I always knew a time would come when I would mentor with Tony Robbins. I didn't just go and attend some Tony events. I actually became one of Tony's Lions. There was only 40 at the time. I think that's still the case today. Lions, I made like a $350,000 investment. I got to be at Tony's house. I got to, Conor McGregor, got to, meet him and Kevin Hart and really cool people. And so he had fireworks over at his house. He's got this beautiful $50+ million right on the beach, just gorgeous, beautiful memories, right? And I'm a huge believer in mentorship. I'm a huge believer that you need to pursue the most brilliant people in your space. And I believe, truthfully, that on stage in the dynamic of breakthrough, in the dynamic of creating a life-changing experience for someone, I believe that I am currently one of the top 3 in the world. And other than Tony, I won't mention the other name. I believe that I'm one of the top 3. If someone comes to my event, I was just at an event and literally there's people, a bunch of these people, I'm at this other event speaking right before Kiyosaki, and a bunch of these other people came up to me and they're this promoter's like, dude, I want you to speak at my event. There's 1,000 people that are going to be there. And they're all like, no. I've been to every event on the planet. No one has a more powerful, better event than Kris Krohn. And it's not a better than, it's not a comparison game. I'm just literally top of the game in that space, because of mentors that I've had, which is why I knew at some point, because of that expertise I started developing years ago, I need to get with Tony. Mm-hmm. Tony has, he has a way of doing his psychological work, his therapy, whatever you want to call it, his interventions, right? I've had Tony do an intervention on me. It was a very powerful experience. So here I am with Tony Robbins, having a very powerful experience. By the way, I learned so much good that I was able to extract at a breakthrough component, at a psychology of how to run an event component, from a sales perspective, I just actually am extracting business wisdom, like what is actually being taught. So I would usually keep 5 sets of notes when I would watch Tony. And eventually I started realizing that there were some things that I disagreed with Tony on. I even found some things I didn't like about Tony. I'm not going to share what they are because it's personal, but the point is, I'm grateful for those disagreements because it means that I'm finding me. And it's not oh my gosh, let's pull people together and throw Tony under the bus. No. I could literally elevate Tony like 100 to 1 for all the good that he's taught me. But a couple of things that I've seen that I didn't like, that was powerful learning for me. I think that it's unfair to try to learn from someone alone who's perfect than saying, but I don't want to learn from the person who went bankrupt multiple times. Those people have very, very powerful life lessons. I always, I had a teacher in college that said, you don't have to stick your head in a garbage can to find out if it stinks. I'm like, yeah, if you learn by proxy. So I learned that proxy learning is really, really important. Mm-hmm. Dave Ramsey, if you watch my YouTube channel, like I throw the guy under the bus all the time. I think as a human being, he's like grade A, amazing human. Like his mission is to protect people from bad financial decisions. His mission is to provide safe, conservative financial education for a world that desperately needs it because we have so many people with inappropriate spending habits. I'm so glad that Dave Ramsey exists. And when I knock him down off of his stool, somewhat regularly on my social media, it's not about the man's character. It's about the fact that if you follow his advice and lose your most valuable asset, time, then you will not be able to recover from financial conservatism, which I think at its extreme is actually a money disorder. Yes, an actual clinical disorder. Look at money disorder, where you're so in love with saving and accumulation that it drives you into a level of fear and scarcity, sometimes peace of mind, but mostly fear and scarcity, where when it matters most, when you need money and it's not there, it's because you realize that you are playing it so safe single digit that you never invested. You were just trying to get out of debt and pay crap off. You're trying to, and there's no amount of accumulation that even let's say you earn 4 times higher than the average person. Listen, if you're one of the best savers, there's no 40 years worth of saving where you can save everything that you need on a single digit ROI program. I'm very against that methodology. If you want to grow, you should take a step backwards and go into debt to do it. Just take calculated risks and have a diversification strategy. I'm not right. I'm different. And there's some people that are like, no. I have the palate for the 50-year plan. I'm going with Dave. And I did the math and I'll get there. Great. And there's other people that look to me and they're like, if in 10 years I'm not living my highest and best, most ideal life, I'm going to hate myself. And then you definitely can't follow Dave. because that's not his game plan. And I can't guarantee a game plan I have that'll work for you, but I'll give you the opportunity and the possibility. And for some people, that's enough.
Okay, Kris, so I'm loving this, but let's throw a curveball and make this interesting. I Googled the list of most influential people in the world.
Oh, come on. You're not going to ask me
yes,
to
I am.
say
Name
hot
by
or not.
name by name. I'm going to just ask you how you feel about them.
But before I answer, you realize there's something of value to get from everyone.
Yes.
You're trying to get me on social to call people out.
And there's a number of political figures.
Then let me preface. So I used to ask my real estate mentors years ago, like, which strategy is best? And ultimately what I learned is it was an unfair question. Because they said, well, Kris, you actually have to define the criteria that would mean best for you. Because if you mean the most profitable, then are you negating the fact that it also might be the most risky? Or do you really
and you came up with the...
Right, I have a formula on this. Well, I will tell you right now that when I meet human beings, it's one thing to get advice from people, but it's altogether different for me to figure out whether this is a person I would ever go into business with. And
this is great.
Kris of the past would have said, is it lucrative? Like, is it going to make a lot of money? Like, do we have a good marketing plan? That's not the Kris Krohn of today. The Kris Krohn of today, who's been burned more than a few times, who now is a verifier, says, do I like you as a human? Would I break bread with you? In other words, are you a giver or are you a taker? Because I was a little nervous this weekend to meet Kiyosaki.
Yeah.
Because he's one of 3 individuals that I threw under the bus on a very, very loud YouTube video and basically just said, let's take some quotes directly right out of his mouth and
critique them.
Because on the one hand, Rich Dad Poor Dad, most brilliant book, Cash Flow Quadrant, brilliant book. He is an insanely brilliant marketer. And then there's a real story behind how he wrote his books or where he got IP from, whether it was actually his or taken. Okay. I've met these individuals. And at the end of the day, I had to pass judgment. Do I like this human being? Would I like myself more for spending time with them or less? And I learned that it puts them in a category of, honestly, this person is a giver or a taker. So part of whatever this list is, if actually
it's going to be beautiful. This is
my
perfect.
intuition is going to be like give or taker. And if they're a taker, then it's like, I might be able to learn from their strategy. I might be able to learn from what they do, but that don't mean I'm doing business with them, because a taker in the end, it's like the house in Vegas. They will always win.
Yeah. Okay, so those watching or listening in your car or at home, I hope you're on the edge of your seat because this is about to get good. But let's do it. Let's use your criteria.
Ditch this episode. This will never see the light of day. I don't know if I can allow that.
Kris, let's use your criteria then. The question is not,
I'm telling you, I don't know if we can publish this. This is, I can't believe that you're going here.
Dude, this is good. This is good. So the question is, would you go into business with this person?
Perfect.
Right?
I like that question.
There's a number of political figures on here, and we're not talking politics. We're not
Democrat,
even know
if I know them. I feel like
you'll know all of these.
Okay, fine.
I promise you. I just Googled a list.
Go.
And we're going to go through them. We're not going to hit them all. Number 1 on the list of most influential people today, Donald Trump. Would you go into business with him?
No.
No?
Oh, don't get me wrong. He's brilliant. It would be a great PR move. I'm sure whatever it is would be successful. And I'm actually going to go out there and say that politically, there's a ton that I actually really like with him.
But you wouldn't go into business with him?
Because at a personal level, maybe we could even say a moral level, that person's character of core values does not align with mine. They get to choose their life. I get to choose my path.
Of course.
And honestly, I'm a bit of a brat when it comes to, here's the real question. Will I like who I am more if I'm around them, or will I like myself less?
Yeah.
That's a question I ask myself when I meet people.
Of course.
Do I like how I feel when I'm around you? And if I don't like how I feel, my life's too short to spend it with people that I wouldn't enjoy. In other words, what are your standards? There's so many things in life that matter to me so much more than did I make money?
I got chills when you were saying that. I'm sorry. Okay, you ready for the next one?
Yep.
Barack Obama.
No.
You wouldn't go into business with him?
No, there's just too much socialistic energy of we all need to elevate the equality of the sameness for everyone. And that is important, but that's not my mission. Like, I'm not talking about other people. I'm talking about my mission is to help the underdog like get an unfair advantage because they say, I got hunger, but college says I wasn't born with enough brains, or I feel disadvantaged. Dude, I love helping people rise. I like helping people make their first million, not their 100th million. And don't worry, I have those business partners as well, but I feel called personally to serve people that say, hey, I don't live in a very fair world. And my answer isn't, well, let's just see if we can knock on the doors of governments, institutions, and grants and society and see if they will give you a leg up. I don't believe, like, I'm not saying that that's wrong. I'm just saying that first and foremost, I'd say, manifest destiny. What's inside of you? Rise. Let's figure it out. Let's get some mentorship. Let's do something. And I don't think Barack would be my guy on that.
So interesting. This is so good. I'm so glad we're talking about this. I really think there's huge value, not because of whether or not you like these people, Kris, but your approach to evaluating is so different than what I expected, than what I get from most people. Okay, you ready for the next one?
I'm ready.
Elon Musk.
Dude, I think Elon is freaking brilliant. I could see myself aligning with him in so many ways. There are some projects of his that genuinely scare me because he's doing so much to advance technology, and some of the stuff like neural implants or going to Mars, there's a part of me that's just like, the practical application on that like has genius beyond my comprehension that might be too many generations out for me to care so much today. But at a very practical level, I think he's an incredibly intelligent business owner. I think that he's at where he's at today as the most wealthy person in the world as of this podcast because of his super open and forward futuristic thinking mindset. And so I respect that. I would totally partner with him.
You'd partner with him. Mm-hmm. Jeff Bezos.
I actually don't have an opinion on that one because I actually haven't seen enough of his character. As in, I've limited myself to how much so I've read some things from him. I've seen some things here and there. And because I don't know his character at a personal level, I can't make that determination. Because who you are personally when the lights are out is far more important to me than who you are in the limelight.
Okay. Oprah Winfrey.
A girl who got fired as a reporter for being too emotional and told that she would never make it in TV. She would never make it in media. I think Oprah has inspired so many people the world over. And I genuinely think that Oprah in her heart is more of a giver than anything else. And so much of the materialistic reward that she's received is a byproduct of having a hugely generous heart. So that's 100% yes on Oprah.
Yes. Steve Jobs.
Were he alive?
Yeah.
I think I have a lot in common with Steve Jobs. He's a very, very precise, accurate individual that knows exactly what his executed vision is supposed to look like. I think sometimes is accused of being stoic or controlling, whereas I've kind of moved out of some of the spaces where I've created autonomy for my chief executive suite to be able to operate and build companies. In that way, we're a little bit different. But I think he was a huge visionary, and I think I would lean slightly in the yes direction on him.
Okay, so here's another one that's not necessarily on the list of most influential people today, but definitely on the rise as an influencer. Candace Owens. She makes waves.
Dude, I love Candace Owens. I think she has it's very refreshing to see her cut through all the BS and want to get to truth. I've seen her interview President Trump. I've seen her interview some of the most influential people. And then I can tell she's asking them questions that might make them feel uncomfortable as if they're fully unprepped. And she asks it in a way where she brings this intensity that just says, tell me the truth. I also think that she's, if she is, I feel like she's serving the people instead of her own agenda. I feel like there's just a commitment to truth. And that really, really resonates with me. I think that her form of giving is by seeking brutal honesty, by sometimes being brutal. And that's a win for me. So that's a yes.
You'd go into business.
100%.
Awesome. Okay, last one, and then we'll kind of move the conversation forward. Bill Gates.
When I was a a very young boy, and I watched my parents struggle financially, being from Redmond, Washington, and Microsoft was so on the rise, and every 10th person that worked in Microsoft worked in their pajamas and was a millionaire, and the free Coke machines for all. I actually got to tour the place a couple of times as a kid growing up with scouts and my
right there,
church leadership program. Yeah, dude, it was right in my backyard. And I remember like thinking, wow, for our millennial world today, they were so ahead of the curve when it came to culture. And I love all that. When I was 8 years old, I wrote a letter to Mr. Gates, and I said, my family needs money. Will you give us some? Right? Like I was really worried about my parents. But Bill Gates is not someone that I would go into business with.
What changed?
I think I've heard too many controversial reports that, on the one hand, there's some things that I have deep admiration for, and then there are some other things that really concern me. And so, honestly, it's more of an intuition move than anything that just says, that's not a yes for me. It's not clear. And I have a rule. When you're in doubt,
you're in doubt.
You're in doubt. And that's a no answer.
So a lot of people look up to you, Kris. In fact, this morning we had a gentleman waiting outside our office who'd been waiting all morning for you to show up, hoping to get some airtime with you.
Dude, I got out of my car and he came up to me and
he's probably nervous and he's like, I don't
he was
normally
so nervous.
do this.
He's like, hi, this is my name. And then I just want you to be my mentor. Like, what do I have to do? And in that moment, I was like, wow, I am so late for so many things right now. But I had so much admiration because that was me when I started. I said, come with me. And I started introducing him to people, like, go figure out what this young man is about and then give him something, create value for him, help him. And Trent just interrupted us a moment ago and he said, hey, remember that project manager that we were trying to hire? I just hired that kid. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me.
Now everybody out there thinks if they just show up here, we'll give them a job. Great. Setting an amazing...
this from the...
No, keep it. It's fine. You're in a position of influence, Kris. So in the same way that you look up to these individuals you've shared,
yeah,
people are looking up to you. How do you handle that burden? Is it like fame? Is it like, oh, this is so cool?
No, I mean, so two things on that. The first one is, if you ever come out to my events, one of the things that I'll always tell you is I'll often preface some of my harder lined opinions and just say, listen, this isn't right and wrong. This is right for me. This may not be right for you. I learned a long time ago when I was mastering the game of sales that you can strong arm people or you can invite people. And I call it agenda energy versus invitation energy. Have you ever met that person trying to sell you something and you could tell that you were an object? They didn't really care about you. They were exchanging pleasantries. And in the back of their mind, it's almost like you can smell their commission breath. And there's an agenda that their goal is to sell you something. You're a commission to them. And I think we all know what that feels like because a lot of the world operates that way. Invitation energy is one that says, instead of I know what's best for you, it says, I have no idea what's best for you. And this is the energy that I operate from. I don't know what's best for you. But what I can do is represent myself with as much passion as possible and pull in the data and make an argument. And either you will or won't agree. And if you don't, great. Hopefully there's value in understanding why you disagree, just like I find value in that. And if you do agree, dude, then no excuse, come and play and let's get it going on. Let's make this happen. And so, for me, that releases a lot of burden because all I can do is invite people. The moment there's a saying in Buddhism that all suffering stems from desire. Wanting something for someone else can lead to suffering. It can be painful. I know because I used to do this. I used to be more of a controlling individual. I married my wife. We were both really young and I was like, oh, you should this and you need to that. And I was shooting on her and you need to this. And I started realizing, wow, our strength is in our diversity, not our similarity. Opposites attract, I believe, for a reason, so we can complete each other. I don't say that to be corny. I mean, one's extrovert, one's introvert. One is outgoing, one is shy. One is really good at numbers and organization, and the other one is more spontaneous. Like we need each other. We need these differences. I now celebrate the differences. So I guess what I'm saying is that, I love being a person of influence. I hope I'm influencing people for good. And at the end of the day, all I'm doing is representing things that have worked for me. And whether one person follows me or 10 million doesn't matter, because I'm not here to influence a growing body. I'm just here to influence those that I can help. Years ago, I learned a real tough lesson that if people, fill you up with potpourri and put you up on a pedestal and make you feel good, and that means something to you, if you start believing your press clippings, you start losing some of your humility. You start putting a lot more clout into ego and believing that you're as great as everyone tells you are. Dude, the bigger they are, the harder they fall.
Yeah.
That pride knockdown can be painful. And so I just decided that I didn't like that feeling. And so I've installed a filter. And that filter is when someone comes up to me and says, Kris, you changed my life. Instead of believing their words, I feel the energy and I interpret it. Sometimes that energy is they're expressing gratitude. Sometimes there's a want, there's an ask that they have. Sometimes they just want to express appreciation. And I take the energy and it goes through that filter and I express gratitude back to them for it, rather than letting it filter up to my ego, kind of blow up my head a little bigger and then make me feel like I'm all that. Because I made a pact with God at the very beginning of this journey. As things started happening, I said, I'll make you a promise because you are my master mentor, that no amount of success, no amount of fortune, no amount of fame will ever take me away from you, because that would be the greatest failure of my life. So humility it's more of a grounding thing for me. It's every day having a process to remind myself who I am and why I'm doing what I'm doing. And the accolades have stacked up, and the thank you cards and the expressions of gratitude and the gift baskets, and people can be so generous. And at the end of the day, I just return that with a gesture of appreciation and acknowledging them, and then reminding them, I didn't change your life. You did that. You changed your life. You were the one willing to learn. You were the one that decided to show up. You're the one that approached me. So I think at the end of the day, I'm just looking for the balance that reminds me that I am precious and priceless and of infinite value. And so is every other person on this planet that I meet. Nothing should ever elevate a person above another when it comes to self-worth. We're all, I believe, equal, even though we have different strengths and weaknesses, and some of us were given more and some of us a little bit less. And that probably is the Barack Obama, more socialistic side of me that says, I want everyone to thrive, but I recognize the reality is that some have more capabilities, and I will find those people and I will help them thrive, and then I will inspire them to give to those that can't get. And that's my way of addressing some of our social woes.
Well, Kris, this conversation has been absolutely awesome. And as I'm thinking about it, why does this matter? Why do we look up to people? And I'm realizing that a lot of it has to do with hope and faith. Because when we see someone else that's trailed ahead down a path that we haven't gone down yet, and we see them having the results that we want, it gives us faith that, hey, if I tread the same path, if I learn from this individual, I can have hope of those same results.
And I don't know why I'm wired this way, but the moment I hack something and I figure out how to systematize it, then I always want to reverse engineer it and share it. And I don't know why I do this. But I can't not do it. It feels like the most ungrateful thing that I could ever do would be to hoard like amazing, brilliant knowledge. And so I love sharing with people.
Well, I think a lot of our viewers and listeners super appreciate you sharing everything that you learn. And I hope you continue being the mentor that you are, Kris, to me and to all of us. That humble mentor that's not out there looking to be like, praise me, but just wants to share.
And if anyone out there criticizes me, I'm grateful. Like, that means that you're learning more of who you need to be and when not to be like me or when not to agree with me. And there's room for all of that, and it's perfect. It goes back to that diversity principle. That's how we get everything that we need. We need Barack Obamas, and we need Trumps, and we need Oprah Winfreys, and all these people that I wouldn't also be business partners with. We need them as well. It's part of what makes this whole world come together and work. Because at the end of the day, while many of us are looking for a result, what we're not usually aware of is that what we actually are going to end up valuing the most in the end is knowledge. And knowledge can be acquired from anyone. And it can be acquired from people you don't admire and don't look up to, and it can be acquired from those that you do, which means there's learning everywhere. So if you get in the growth game, and if your commitment is to growth, it just says, great, get humble, get teachable, and then have that starter mind, that first student awareness, and go back to that part of you that just wants to soak it all up like a sponge, like that kid that met me right outside, and be that person that just wants to keep growing, because I'm never going to stop. And hopefully that allows me to keep sharing and creating value for people.